5 days ago. Tell me what it was like walking out of the terminal and meeting Angel in person for the very first time. 22 years old, no boyfriend since birth. What made you decide to take on and come chase after a 22-year-old Filipina?
He blocked me for the first time.
Dean blocked her for some reason.
He blocked me from WhatsApp. He unfollowed me to Facebook, Messenger.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another episode of Fly Me to the Philippines.
We're here in Cagayan de Oro with two special visitors, Dean and Angel, joined by Chrissy, my wife, and we're going to interview a special couple who just met in person 5 days ago.
We're Rob and Chrissy, authors of Fly Me to the Philippines book.
The #1 travel book in Philippines travel for 6 months. Pick it up on Amazon. Now let's get to the interview, Chrissy. Angel, 22 years old, just graduated college in South Cotabato, Mindanao. Dean from Florida, age 58. You guys have a 36-year age relationship. And Chrissy, last night at dinner, Angel shared she was an NBSB.
Yes, and one of the most interesting part about their relationship is that they were an LDR, long distance relationship for 1 year.
Right. So what we're going to do today is we're going to interview Angel and Dean and answer the question, is 22 years old too young for a man 58 from the West? You met on Filipino Cupid. You're going to share some of your experiences online. Angel, you're going to talk to Chrissy one-on-one later and explain to her what your motivations were to go online and meet a man like Dean. And so we're going to have just an introduction, and then I'll interview Dean one-on-one, and he can tell you, men, from his perspective. Chrissy will interview Angel one-on-one, and you'll hear her perspective, and then we'll all come back and wrap it up for a very special interview today from
Fly Me to the Philippines. But Rob, before that, we are going to ask them questions as introduction about their relationship, their first meeting online, and of course in person.
Dean, 58 years old from Florida. You were in an LDR with Angel for 1 year while she was in senior year in college. 5 days ago, you were in the airport in General Santos. Tell me what it was like walking out of the terminal and meeting Angel in person for the very first time.
First of all, it was very hot. But once I got the 3 suitcases and everything out to see her, it was amazing. I'm in love with her family as well as her, which I've also been talking to for the last year. And the only thing that was really surprising to me was how comfortable it was. Mm-hmm. And that nothing seemed abnormal and nothing seemed, not with her father and the way he greeted me. He was the first to actually come and hug me in the middle of the parking lot. And Angel's like, he beat me to it. You know? And then, of course, Angel came and gave me a hug. And just from there on out, we went to Jollibee and we were, taking pictures in the car. It's just, the only surprising thing has been how incredibly comfortable it has been.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How about you, Angel? Knowing that Dean is already on the plane coming to see you, were you nervous, excited, or you're like just comfortable?
Actually, I feel comfortable that time. I didn't feel nervous. But that time, like maybe I just wait him maybe around almost one hour. Mm-hmm. So I feel gutom, hungry.
You feel hungry.
Yeah, because then I just chatted, babe, I'm so gutom na, like that. And then he told me like, baby, I'm just gonna land the plane. Then while I am waiting outside of in the exit area of the airport, it should be me to first hug him, but the problem is my papa go and run. So I just wait.
So your father got there first.
Yeah,
before you. He was like more excited than you, huh? Well, I can feel that Dean is really welcome in your family.
So Dean, you had a really atypical experience. You landed in General Santos. You drove 2.5 hours roughly to South Cotabato. It's a very yellow part of the yellow zone in Mindanao, and you slept in the family home. Yeah. Now, a couple who've been in a relationship online for a year and all that passion building up, What was it like to be in the family home where it was hard to show affection, and you had a ring and you had a promise ceremony that you conducted? Tell us about those first 3 days.
Yeah, we actually did the ring whenever we went to the Lake Dolores Resort, and it was just us and the immediate family. I wanted to make sure it was private enough because there were literally 30 people hovering around us the entire time. It was a very humble home, but I myself had very poor beginnings, in my life in the United States. So even though this was more humble, I'm not unfamiliar with, and I'm not intimidated at all by very humble surroundings. So just as long as the faces were friendly, and everyone was, they were so welcoming and had tons of food ready for us, and everyone was shaking my hand like I was some sort of celebrity or something like that. That made me maybe a little bit uncomfortable. What a big deal that they were making about it. But
so, did you get a first kiss in the airport, or did you have to wait till you had an afternoon alone?
I already knew that kissing in public is not really a thing that you do in the Philippines. But yes, a kiss like on the cheek and on the forehead, yeah, absolutely, and a big hug. But I already knew, I wanted to kiss her right on the lips the second I saw her. But I knew that was a faux pas, but everything just got consumed by family time. But then later on, once we had already, talked to everyone, they made it a point to make sure we had privacy. And, although we were very respectful of the family home.
You got a good night's sleep? You got a good night's sleep?
No, we've slept practically nothing.
Okay.
Right. So, aside from your father's reaction on the airport kiss, it's very obvious that he really welcomed Dean, that with warmth, and with love. But how about your neighbors? The people in your barangay. How did they react when they see you bringing this foreigner guy while you didn't have any boyfriend before?
Actually, they know that I'm dating a foreigner, the neighbor, because inside of the church, then they know because some of my neighbor talk to him through call.
Oh.
So after I bring him in the countryside, then I told him that, babe, don't be surprised because many neighbors waiting you here. Then after he get off from the car, then the children is at the back. The neighbor is staying in the house of my uncle.
So apparently Dean is very lucky because you're not just being introduced to the family, but to the whole community.
The whole village was there. I mean, yeah, it was a big deal. That was the only thing was a little bit like, what do I do whenever there's this many people to meet and I don't know who they are? That was the only thing that was intimidating. But with her immediate family and with Angel, there was never any discomfort or anything feeling like this was weird or uncommon.
Question for both of you. You were in a long-distance relationship for almost a year. You met on Filipino Cupid. What was the biggest surprise about meeting in person?
The biggest surprise for me was that it didn't feel strange. Because, you couldn't imagine a more, flying around the world. It's a completely different culture. Obviously, a very tiny village in the middle of, the mountains. So you would think that it would be just a very intimidating and a very strange experience. But the people were so welcoming. It was one of the first things that the family, somebody just in the village, not an immediate family, but just said to me, "Thank you for being brave enough to come here because we get such bad publicity on YouTube and everything like that. So thank you for being a courageous foreigner and giving, Angel a chance and us a chance to prove that we're not what they say we are, that we're not dangerous people." And I was just like, "Oh, this is really cool."
And Angel, last night at dinner, you said that Dean's skin was a lot whiter than you thought it was.
Yeah.
And tell us about that.
Actually, in true calls, I'm surprised that his hair there is long hair, but if after he go to the airport, then I saw, oh my goodness, he's so guapo.
Okay, so we're gonna break off. We're gonna talk to Dean one-on-one, and then we'll have the girls talk one-on-one, and then we'll come back and finish up.
Stay tuned.
So let me just get right to the heart of the matter. The burning question. 22 years old, no boyfriend since birth. What made you decide to take on and come chase after a 22-year-old Filipina?
Well, that definitely was never the intention. The whole intention of researching the Philippines was to find a place where my retirement money would go much further. So I knew that after a divorce, if I met somebody in the United States, them wanting to travel to another country so that I could use my retirement money more, so that I could also fulfill a spirit of adventure, which I thought maybe I would digital nomad, maybe I would do something else. It was really important for me to be able to live with someone in a foreign country and experience a foreign culture. So that's what led me to investigate the Philippines, and there was a couple of dating experiences I had with Filipinos in the United States, and so I really, generally love the way Filipinos look. So I went ahead and did the Filipina Cupid.
Okay, so let me just pause you there. You told me last night at dinner that you had some false starts, and I have so many clients, they're like frustrated after 1 week or 2 weeks, they run into scammers, they run into women that are not who they say they are, and they're so motivated to give up, their feelings are hurt, their pride is hurt. But you pursued for 8-10 weeks until you met Angel.
Yeah.
So just in general, you just had a real positive attitude, even though you weren't being successful at first?
Well, 30% of any online dating is going to be scammers. And, since I'm in software, I quickly ran photos through Photoshop and, scan online to see this is Photoshop, this is fake, search for multiple uses of the same image that have been, known to be scammers. So there was a lot of that, and I just knew that just comes with online dating, no matter what app you're using. Then I filtered out all the people that were baggage. They were looking for a sugar daddy.
Were you looking for 22 in your filter?
No.
So how did you find Angel 22? And what was going through your head? You found the 22-year-old.
So I developed a bio. And it was like 11:30 at night, and I was really tired. And I got to the next part was age filtering. And I just said, let me leave it open and I'll worry about it in the morning. So I said, you did a great job on the bio, let me wake up in the morning and check. And by the morning I had like 150 to 170 hits. I was like, whoa, this is crazy. And a lot of them were very good looking women, and most of them were unfortunately in their 20s. So then I said, okay, I'm gonna have to filter this out. I looked through all 170 just to see what was coming at me, and Angel had liked me.
Okay, so let me stop there, because we do consulting, and we tell the men not to pursue anyone who wrote or liked. So you violated one of our rules, but you turned out to be successful.
Well, I know that if following your rules, if you actually insist on WhatsApp and face-to-face, and you don't fall for scammers who are only willing to text you, that's like, to me, a for sure scam. So I just filtered. I knew enough about myself that I could talk to somebody online, read their eyes, and say, okay, you're fake.
So we always say the quality of the fish you catch has more to do with the pond you fish in than your skill is with a rod and reel. But you decided you could go and just fish in that pond of people who touched you and maybe pull out a good fish.
Now, I was ready to block Angel, just simply because of her age. I wanted somebody who was maybe 35, the lowest range, to 50. So I actually did a reset of my age filter that following day. But then there's some people who, like Angel, I just went ahead and said, you're too young for me, this can't work. And she said, that's okay, I understand. That's a valid concern. But if you want, I'll help you find someone who is of your age group. And I just thought, wow, that's really cool. I read there, wow, that's really cool. Yeah. Thank you, I appreciate it. And if anything, we can do, and whenever I was in Spain, we did what's called intercambios, which you just make a partner relationship where each week you meet and you just language interchange. So I said, at the very worst, would be a language interchange.
Let me pause right there, because you're 58, you live in Florida, but you lived in Costa Rica for like 7 years, and you had a South American wife?
Yes, she's from Colombia.
From Colombia. So you've had some experience with intercultural, not an age gap relationship, but you had an experience with intercultural dating before, and you brought some of that experience to your experience in the Philippines. You're kind of more traveled and international. You speak Spanish, so you can understand 10 or 15% of the Filipino languages.
All the silverware is the same exact name, Paso.
And so And the type of work you do specifically?
Software engineer.
Software engineer. And you're 58, you don't plan to retire until you're like 65 or 67, you told me, and your goal is to bring Angel back to the United States on a K-1 visa.
Yes.
And you plan to start the paperwork at the end of this 30-day trip. or you're already processing paperwork?
Yeah, we already took care of her passport. We got her a postal ID so that she could end up applying for her passport. We've already been through all the Cinemar, getting everything that she's not married.
Certificate of no marriage.
Yep. And so that's all ready, but you can't actually apply in Texas, so that then it can be sent back to Manila for the fiancé visa to start. And fiancé visa is not an obligation to marry. It's just a
K1.
Can you travel over to have 3 months to test to see if it's a real relationship?
90-day fiancé visa, we call it a K1. So Dean, Angel was a NBSB, no boyfriend since birth. Not no experience, but no boyfriend since birth. Now, we once had a story with a 29 or 31-year-old Filipino who claimed to be an NBSB, and everybody called BS. But here you have a woman you met in her senior year in college. You were the entire year, no boyfriend since birth. Didn't that scare you, taking on that kind of responsibility, entering into a relationship with a woman who had never had a boyfriend before?
Absolutely, and I approached it very, very tentatively at first, and just said we can be friends. And I just kept constantly asking her why would you want to be with somebody my age if this doesn't work? And so I was the pessimist, but with her. She's kind of older beyond her years. Once she gets comfortable with you, she may not be comfortable in this interview talking.
Yeah, she's the oldest child, and a lot of times
take charge. I mean, whenever she talks to me and she's all sweet and she's talking slow and in English, and then the second she switches to Tagalog to her, she's the one in charge, boy. So I saw that she has an old soul and she's a mature person, and she is a take charge type of person. Whenever people don't believe in her, she's like.
So here we are, day 5. Yeah. Okay, this is crazy. So 5 days ago, you flew in, you met an NBSB, 22 years old. Yep. 3 days at the family home. You've had 2 days here in Cagayan de Oro, up at just across the way there. You can see the resort, ultra winds at 1,000 feet of elevation with.
Beautiful place, by the way. Thank you for the recognition.
So, how are you able to conduct this interview? As your mind, how are you able to calm down? You had 2 days in the resort.
Well, we've had a compatibility which is rare, even if I was in person, face to face with an American. I would say the compatibility there is normally started off around maybe a 6 or 7 or something like that. With Angels, ever since we got over a 3-month. This can't work, this is ridiculous, because of everything that you mentioned. They're valid concerns. But, after I got over that, I was like, wait a minute, what age was my mom whenever she had my brother? 22. It's like, we're setting new standards. And I think we're also saying, because she's from the Philippines, she doesn't understand. She doesn't know what she's getting into. Poor waif, look how small she is. They have internet here. Yeah. She's had a phone for a very long time. They know everything that we know. So to be condescending in that way and say at 22 you can't have a relationship, or that because you're from a different culture you just don't understand, I think that's a very American egocentric kind of.
So let me just get you to. So the 3 days in Cotabato, meeting at the airport, 10 out of 10. 48 hours in the resort. Now you broke that up to go to dinner with us last night, so it's 47 hours. 10 out of 10?
10 out of 10.
The chemistry's amazing.
Chemistry is on fire at all levels, mental, spiritual.
Yeah. You feel like you have a best friend, even though she's 22.
More than a best friend, it's kind of like also the why young? It's like, okay, I could have a person who's been maybe jilted by tons of guys, jaded as to the relationship experience, old and tired, I feel very young as a person and physically fit, never had a surgery, never an allergy, never taken a pill. I go hiking for 6 hours straight up, and so I need someone who's younger and has that energy. And whenever I think about what are the advantages of a younger woman, I was talking to a friend on a boat, and he said, I don't know what I would do with the 22-year-old. I wouldn't have anything in common. And I asked him, why do you think having a lot of things in common is an advantage? One of the nicest things about our relationship is whenever I was growing bananas in my Miami home, Angeline said, that flour on the bottom, you can make an exotic dish out of it that's really, really good. And I'm learning from her because we don't have things in common. And I made that exotic dish and it was fantastic. My mom ate it for 3 days straight. So to me, finding someone that has a culture that you don't have in common, finding someone who has well, I think you need commonality of energy, and you need a serious click mentally, spiritually, everything. So that has to be there. That has to be real. Otherwise, yes, it is an ugly relationship. But if you have all of those things, then I think the age gap is an advantage. As long as I know that she looks at me and I am her dream dude. If I didn't feel that, I would never go into this relationship. And I look at her and she's my dream girl because of the differences, because of the energy level she has as a younger person. And who do you want to take to Disney? The person who's been there 10 times, or do you want to take the person who's just like looking at it with wonder? That's an extra plus for me.
Yeah. How did you prepare yourself to go deep into the yellow zone? South Cotabato is Chrissy's from Pagadian, that's in the yellow zone, but I feel much safer in Pagadian than I would in South Cotabato, even though it's still not quite technically the red zone. How did you prepare yourself mentally for taking the trip, for being a tourist in this part of Mindanao, meeting your family?
Well, I've always been a little nuts. Like I said, I've lived in Costa Rica for 7 years, lived in Spain for a year when I was in college. I'm a spear fisherman. I like things that get my adrenaline going, and I've also been in a lot of bad neighborhoods. I taught in the ghetto in Miami for a very, very long time. If you walk around like a target and a tourist, then you are a target.
Did you ever feel uncomfortable while you were in the province?
No.
Okay.
I felt not uncomfortable at all. I felt like it was actually home. It's my dream to actually have a house like her uncle. Now, maybe more with your type of fancy home trimmings, but to have a couple of horses and to be in that rural environment. I want a simple life as I retire, still with the satellite link on the top.
Yeah, of course.
And technology, I have to have my technology, but I want a simple life like they have. I don't want to live in an urban blight where nobody says hello in the morning. I want to walk down a street where everyone, greets me and says good morning and wants to invite me in for coffee and know how my day was. I like that culture. I didn't come here to be American. I came here to be Filipino.
Now that you've been together 5 days, what is the day-to-day experience in terms of her maturity level and, does it feel just like a relationship you've had with somebody your own age? I mean, what does it feel like?
Yeah, I think it really helps that she was the oldest one in her family, and that she, even to her parents, is more of a parent to her parents. She kind of makes the rules in the household. So I've noticed that as in the day-to-day, she's super affectionate, super loving. I have no doubts there whatsoever. I am her dream guy, and she is my dream girl, because of the relationship and the mature way that we communicate. And she is very watching over everything I do. So
now you mentioned that, when you're out in public, you're out at the mall, is she jealous?
No, I'm surprised. I think it's just because I've shown her so much affection and dedication and done so many small gestures on my own part. I think I've waylaid all of those type of suspicions.
While you were in an LDR, was she jealous?
At the beginning, yeah, because she saw some pictures of my ex-girlfriends.
How'd that
She was
happen?
intimidated. She asked, and I said, look, I'll show you my last girlfriend, but as far as a head count, you're not going to get one. They don't exist. Here's this girl that I was dating. These are the reasons that she's not right for me. Too much baggage. And I choose you, and just to put her jealousy at.
Okay, and let me ask about here in Asia, women display tampo quite often, which is manipulation disguising itself as hurt feelings.
Yes.
Has she ever gone silent on you? Has she ever been upset with you and stopped talking to you?
I'm glad you asked me that one because and it was over something silly. And I think she did it just to test me. Does tempo work on him? And she said, and I was going to tell you later, I'm just joking. But I said, after everything I've done, you're going to go ahead and not chat me and not talk to me over this small, silly thing instead of just communicating to me. I said, you want to see tempo? I'll show you what tempo is. And I hung up, blocked her on everything. And I said, let her sit on that for a weekend because I've already saw the tempo and your videos and everything. I was like, we're not going to play that game. And so didn't talk to her all weekend. And then on Monday, I unblocked her. And she's like, why did you block me? And she was crying all weekend, and
risky move.
Yeah, it was. But I mean,
early in the relationship.
I live life.
Is this pretty early?
Yes. Well, it was about 6 months in.
Okay, halfway. Yeah.
Yeah, and I just said, well, I live life by what I will be willing to put up with, and if that costs me my relationship, that's fine. But I think a man has to, or a woman, has to draw their lines in the sand.
Let's ask the viewers. Comment below what you think about Dean's move. Was it a risky move? Would you pull that move off? Do you approve? Comment below. A lot of our viewers are in their 60s, some in their 70s, and they're thinking to themselves, could I really start over with a 35-year-old, let alone a 22-year-old? What do you have to, you're 58, you can relate to these men. What do you have to say to them when they ask, could they really start over with a much, much younger woman?
Well, I mean, my answer to that before this would have been, no, you can't do that. I would have been aligning myself with everyone who right now might be watching this video and having objections. And she proved me wrong.
I think a lot of people, before they watch this whole interview, are already writing in, 22 makes no sense, you're crazy.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because that's such
I would have done the same thing.
A heartfelt feeling in people's mind.
I think you have to understand that whenever it's different cultures and halfway around the world, the reasons people love something or even are attracted to someone are different. And you have to take them, as long as they're trustworthy, you have to take them at face value. I take her at face value absolutely now whenever she says, you are everything I want physically, as far as sexual attraction, even you're everything that I want, you know.
Well, I've been telling people that here in the Philippines, you can get an age gap. You're 36 years age gap. Yeah. I'm 37. Nowhere else in Asia can you get more than 20 years where it's legitimate. It's not totally transactional. But here, I'm 2.5 years, Chrissy and I have been together. It feels like the real deal.
And I saw the love between you two at our dinner together. And that was so nice to see the way that she looked at you. You know, it's just something you notice out of the corner of the eye and everything like that. And that was so nice to see. And I mean, obviously I've got skin in the game here whenever I say I don't see there's anything wrong with your relationship. And I saw some things that were just a beautiful attraction of Chrissy towards you, knowing that it's 100% for real.
So you're totally serious. You know, I usually recommend to men they come back and make a second 30 or 60-day trip before they pull the trigger on the K1, because it's easy to put on a mask when you're on a honeymoon type vacation. In real life, when the dental bill shows up or when a sibling gets ill and you get triggered, emotionally triggered, that's when people kind of show their true colors. You're serious, though. You're moving forward at lightning speed to process the K1. Yeah. Do you plan to come back before the K1 is finalized? Your job allow you another month off?
It'll probably take a few months just for Texas to go ahead and send the paperwork and get the case file to Manila. Then it'll take between 6 and 8 months. I ChatGPT to have all of this, and it'll take another 6 to 8 months. So it's going to be another year before I can schedule the. She has to go through a physical exam. Yeah. She has to go through a final interview, and of course online they say it's better to be here for her final interview as a couple. So we got our scrapbook, all of our travel together. This vacation will be going into the application, and I will show up again whenever that's finalized to go ahead and say, not only am I here for the interview, but hope that she can come right back.
Now, a lot of guys, I was like, I'm not bringing Chrissy to the United States. She's just going to need a new pair of tennis shoes every week. People will be chasing her around.
Right.
How do you feel about that?
I kind of feel like if everything that I am thinking about her is an illusion, then I want to test that no matter what. And if she finds a guy that she likes better in the United States whenever she comes over, then
let me ask you
let her
about
be her and let her do her thing.
Let me ask you this: what about the Bambinos? You planning on having children?
See, now that has been a big subject. I said I wouldn't marry again, much less have children again. But after about the 6 to 8 month mark, I just felt such a very strong connection to her that I said, you're the only one, that could convince me to have children again. So it's right now on the table. I want 6 or 8 years of us traveling together and becoming a couple before we commit to something like that. And then that's going to make me very old. By the time these kids are getting in college, I'm going to be, at life's end. I mean, let's just face it. This is, I said, you're marrying somebody with a terminal illness called old age, which is fun in the movies whenever it's Aragorn and Arwen, and we romanticize her making the sacrifice that she knows he's going to die and she loves him anyway. But we insult it whenever it comes to real life,
What do you think? Should he have children the first year she's in America, or should he have 5 to 7 years alone?
I need honeymoon and romance, and she wants to travel.
Yeah, well, I think you're going to get a lot of advice. Well, speaking of the girls, everybody really wants them to come back and do their interview. Let's get the girls back, and Chrissy is going to interview Angel one-on-one and get to the heart of the Filipinas perspective.
Now, this is the biggest question that I'm gonna ask you. It's okay. You can speak from your heart.